And this is just to take a look at the park's service areas, which are generally defined for pocket parks as a quarter-mile radius. And so, see the kind of the right portion of your screen. This would be the existing park location. 444 linear feet to the new proposed location. So we're looking at the southwest corner of each parcel. And if you draw a straight line, you end up with 444 feet. Reasonable walking distance on sidewalks within the subdivision, you end up with around 600 feet. You can walk down Indian Hills Drive and then up a Pony Place and access the proposed park location, and that's about 600 feet. So on the, you can see a pink radius here. That would be the quarter-mile radius of the proposed park. You also see a fainter green circle dashed, which would be the current quarter-mile radius of the existing park. And we also have another park in the area which is currently undeveloped, and this is part of the Indian Hills 8th subdivision, which resides right here. And you can see the radius, or the circle, the quarter-mile circle around that park parcel, which encompasses a large portion of the earlier Indian Hills 6, or not Indian Hills 6, but earlier Indian Hills subdivisions. There were pedestrian easements that extended from Alturas Drive to a Pony Place, as well as a Pony Place to the existing park location. And you can see them, a little hard to see, they're gold, extend right down here as well as here. And this was intended, this is part of the original Indian Hills 6 subdivision plat, intended to provide more access from commercial services and adjacent neighborhoods to the proposed park location at the time. And I have on the screen, this is the 1.1 acre park, and you also have Alturas Public Park here, which is also called Thompson Park, which would also provide that connection, should you accept the parkland exchange to Alturas Drive that the pedestrian easement currently provides. The applicant's requesting to vacate those two pedestrian easements as part of the proposal tonight. The Transportation Commission did review and recommended approval of the preliminary plat with a suggested condition that the developer be responsible to install a paved path through the proposed park parcel, once again, should that exchange be approved. So the developer is proposing to vacate those pedestrian easements. Pedestrian easement was intended to serve as a shorter pedestrian route. Since the proposed park property is now providing the area for that connection to happen, since the developer had previously been required to pave the pathway within the pedestrian easement, the Transportation Commission determined that the future pathway across the proposed park property should be the responsibility of the developer to install rather than the city, and that was their recommendation. Substantial water sewer system changes. We have a 20-foot wide sanitary sewer easement that the URA is proposing to dedicate from Alturas Drive to the proposed lots 3 and 4 of Indian Hills 6 replat, and that would to provide sanitary service to these two parcels here. You also have easements that are proposed to connect from lot 3, block 7 to a Pony Place. You also have a common easement that's on the common lot lines of the two flagpole lots to convey sewer as well. And then once again, it's that stormwater detention pond down here in the southwest corner that's also part of the proposal. Talking a little bit about vacation of right-of-way. Under Idaho state law, you can't actually plat over right-of-way, so the applicants submitted a vacation request. This has been scheduled for June 17th at the next council meeting. Basically, on the original subdivision plat, you had this cul-de-sac, the solid line here. You ended up having a bulb out here, the portion of a pony when it makes that 90-degree turn to the south. With the current configuration, the applicant is proposing to vacate that and essentially have, this would be the new radius that would be going around that corner, essentially vacating this portion of that former bulb out on the Pony Place Street. So Planning and Zoning Commission did conduct a public hearing on May 8th, 2013, and they recommended approval of the comprehensive plan land use designation as well as the rezone with a condition that the auto urban commercial land use designation and residential office zone designation be expanded in the northwest corner to coincide with the original parcel boundary of Lot 1, Block 7. So instead of rezoning and amending the comprehensive plan land use designation for just the 4.82 acre portion of Lot 1, Block 7, Planning and Zoning Commission wishes to extend it all the way to the 5.69, the entire parcel. Commission also recommends approval of preliminary plat with 2 conditions recommended by staff, as well as 3 additional. The first one is the amendment of the plat to retain the existing parkland parcel and the existing pedestrian easements. The second, that the plat be amended to leave the 2 lots that were removed in the area of the proposed parkland on the corner of Apony. And the third, that the applicant work with the Parks and Recreation Director and Park and Recreation Commission to find a suitable means to satisfy the increased parkland dedication requirement. So staff's recommendation before you tonight is to conduct a public hearing upon the proposed parkland exchange, land use designation amendment, zoning designation, and preliminary plat, and upon consideration of any testimony presented, first, declare the intent to exchange parkland as proposed by the applicant. Second, to approve the proposed comprehensive plan land use designation resolution. Next, to approve the proposed zoning ordinance under suspension of the rules, requiring 3 complete and separate readings, and that they be read by title and published by summary. And fourth, approve the proposed preliminary plat for the replat of Indian Hills 6 Edition, Phase 2 and Phase 3, with the following 3 conditions. The first being the applicant shall provide a parkland dedication of 1.2327 acres in size within the proposed subdivision per the Parks and Rec Commission, as well as the director's recommendation. The applicant shall also dedicate additional public utility easements on lots 3 and 4 of Block 7, and that's in order to accommodate the 20-foot wide sanitary sewer easement that will be established at the common lot lines of lots 2 and 3 of Alturas Business Park, and that's subject to approval by the city engineer. The third, that the applicant shall amend the turning radius on the portion of Apony Place where the streets makes a 90-degree turn to the south to meet city street standards. And with that, I'd certainly be able to answer any questions that you might have, and Dwight Curtis, Parks and Rec Director, is also here to answer any questions about the exchange that you might have.
Thank you, Mike. Appreciate that. Nicely done report, as always. Dan, you have a question for Mike?
Mike, can you go back to the planning and zoning recommendations here? Go back there a second. The land use designation part, show me on the map what they're talking about doing. I guess you'd have to go clear back to the land use designation map. What is the Planning and Zoning Commission talking about?
Basically, if we look at the original plat, we're talking about this area here. And so this is 5.69 acres. And so they had originally proposed the 1 acre here to be rezoned general business.
We're talking land use designation is what planning and zoning was talking about.
Talking about both.
Okay.
So it was consistent with each other. So the comprehensive plan land use designation will have to come before the rezone. And so basically it's just those 2 areas. You have the 1 acre piece here that's proposed auto urban commercial as well as general business.
Okay.
And you also have the residential office piece, which is 3.82 acres with the urban residential land use designation. And so it ends right here to accommodate the proposed park.
Right.
And so Planning and Zoning Commission's recommendation is that there be no exchange and that those, basically the RO and the urban residential, be carried the entire area of Block 7, Lot 1.
So this was after
So to include basically where the proposed park location was to be.
This was after they decided it
On the
against
exchange.
Okay.
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Other questions, Tom?
I guess I'm following up on that question. I had a similar question about the rezone request.
Sure.
So if the parkland swap is not approved, the rezone request would be for RO all the way into that corner? That that northwestern corner?
Correct.
Okay. So that answers one question I had. The other question, you said that the existing general business lot, the 1 acre existing general business lot, is actually motor business.
It's actually motor business,
So,
correct.
what we see here as GB next to GB would actually be GB next to motor business.
Yeah, it would be motor business, general business, residential office.
Right, okay. So, but the current use of that falls within motor business, of course, but would it also fall within general business?
It would,
Okay,
yes.
thanks. Those are my only two questions.
And just to note, there are two versions of the ordinance as well as two versions of the resolution. One with the 5.69 acres and then the one with just the 4.82 as proposed by the applicant.
Walter?
You commented that the URA is willing to dedicate an easement for a sewer line between two of their lots out to Alturas Drive. That is just an easement. It's not the URA constructing a sewer or anything.
Correct.
And who would construct that sewer? The developer? When and
Yeah.
if it's needed?
Yes, correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Wayne?
Mike, you indicated RO that residential-wise, it could be multiple family housing,
It could.
similar to R4.
It is similar.
But isn't the difference between R4 and RO actually lot size?
They're roughly about the same. So usually it's, with the multifamily, it's basically 5,000 square feet is your minimum, or 800 square feet per dwelling unit, whichever is greater. And so those are both the same in the RO and the R4. We ended up changing those about a year and a half, 2 years
Okay,
ago.
but in R4, there's still the capability to build a 10-unit apartment house.
Correct.
Is that capability available within RO?
Correct.
It seems to me that that's pretty dense abutting against R2.
Well, it basically served as a transition between those commercial designations to the east, in closer proximity to Mountain View Road, as well as the commercial uses on Alturas
Right,
Technology
I understand.
Park.
You're accomplishing that part. But
Sure.
the part that concerns me is we generally don't take and put an R4 zone up against an R2 zone without a buffer. And essentially, that's what we're doing there, are we not?
Well, buffer
It's
would-
RO, yes, but it's the same thing as R4 as far as residential.
Sure. A buffer would be required between those zones. We also have a R4 zone, which is, directly to the north. You have an R3 that buffers that, but you
We
can
don't
still
have any buffer between the
duplexes.
R2 and the RO, do we?
You have a buffer between the R2 and the
No
RO?
buffer between the two of them.
I'd have to consult my matrix. And
Bill?
code.
Bill?
If I may answer.
Please.
I mean, there will be a buffer, and when we're talking about buffer, there's a couple different uses of the word. There is a landscape buffer that's required by the city code when you have development that occurs on a more intense zone adjacent to a less intense zone. There's a varying widths from 10 to 14 feet and a number of plantings depending upon the configuration of zoning in the two adjacent zoning districts. In this case, I don't think it's necessarily unusual that you would have a higher intensity district that's adjacent to a lower intensity residential district. And just because that is a permitted use, certainly that's something the council needs to consider in your deliberations. That doesn't mean that's going to be that may not be the ultimate outcome. But certainly the code would require a landscape buffer to be constructed at the time that RO property is developed.